So if you've been watching the news over the last couple of days, you're aware that the actress Hayden Panettiere appears to have suffered some type of drug overdose, and at 36, she is dead. Single mum, left a beautiful child, and she's gone. But there's more news about what's been going on with Hayden Panettiere. Hayden Panettiere, the intervention that never happened. I'm Mark Astor. I'm the co-founder of a law firm based here in South Florida with offices in Boca Raton, Orlando, and Jacksonville, and also in Boston, Massachusetts. And the mission of the firm that I co-founded is to save families whose loved ones are suffering from substance use, mental health disorders, and failed attempts at recovery. Now, we speak to families from all over the country, and unfortunately, this is the kind of family that we would have been speaking to had they been aware of the work that we do. And, you know, maybe, just maybe, if they knew about us, right, maybe if they were aware of the amazing, special, unique Marchman Act, a statute that we have down here in Florida, that maybe we could have got Hayden here and maybe we could have saved her. But what the most recent article is really talking about is the idea of doing an intervention. And I will tell you, even as a lawyer who has been practicing 32 years, 11 in doing just this work, I am a fan of interventions. But it's got to be an intervention that's done by somebody who's actually qualified to do it. And when I say qualified, I mean not somebody who took an 8-hour course online and calls himself an interventionist. The interventionists that we work with have thousands of hours of clinical training, thousands of hours of experience doing interventions, and they're world class. And it's as simple as that. And that's the only kind of interventionist I like to work with. That being said, the director of one of her films has been interviewed, and he said apparently Hayden's team had reached out to him and said, we'd like to do an intervention. And he said, great, I'd love to participate. Now, for whatever reason, the intervention never took place. Maybe we'll find out why that was. At this point, all that we know is that apparently the idea was floated, and the director said, great, it's clear she's got a problem. I know she has a problem. I'd like to help. And then it never actually happened. Now, I will say this, her actual cause of death has not been officially announced, but it sounds like it's an overdose. Apparently the call came in as a potential cardiac arrest. They administered Narcan, which is the overdose drug, right? If someone's having an overdose, they get administered Narcan. The idea is to bring them back. But if her heart had stopped beating, and she just may have been too far gone, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. But apparently there was a long history here, starting when she was in her late teens, where she had started to use alcohol and opioids and other types of drugs, and it's just heartbreaking. But let's take a second to talk about an intervention. I mean, what really is an intervention? Well, it really is a process where, you know, an interventionist gets the family together, and the idea is there's a sit down and they confront their loved one. And, you know, if it's done right, it could be a wonderful way to get somebody into treatment. Okay, but sometimes, you know, families talk about these things and then they don't happen. Okay, sometimes they'll do an intervention and we get somebody into treatment and then they leave. Okay, so if we're going to do an intervention, I'm a big fan of using the intervention to get somebody into treatment and using the legal process like the Marchman Act to keep them there, and keep them there long enough, and keep them there long enough in a facility that is clinically appropriate, that's able to address their problem. Now, the Marchman Act deals with substance use as primary. And so obviously that requires us to provide evidence to the court that there's a primary substance use disorder. And just from what little I know about Hayden's case, it does sound like she had a significant primary substance use disorder. Almost certainly there was some mental health issues going on. And, you know, somebody who'd been in that Hollywood environment since she was a child, you know, these are some of the things that can and do happen. You know, sometimes an intervention happens and the family says, well, it didn't work, we're done. And my response to that is, no, we're not done. We're just getting started here, right? We tried the intervention, it didn't work. Okay, what's the next step, Mark? Tell us what you would do. Well, if the intervention hasn't worked, then I guess we're going to plan B. Now, I would have liked to use the Marchman Act along with the intervention, but the intervention isn't apparently going to work. Okay, sometimes these things don't work. Well, then we got to file a Marchman Act. Well, who can do that? Well, typically it's going to be one person who has direct personal knowledge. Now, obviously, if we're dealing with an adult child, 18 to 45 is the typical age range, then it could be just one of the parents. I like to have both parents because we want to provide the court with a united front, right? A unified front. And we want this person to know mom and dad are on the same page here. The good news is we don't need, half a dozen people like we might, for an intervention. We don't need the whole family to participate. I just need one, usually two people, to say, yep, we're going to be the petitioners here. And, I don't care if they don't want to go. We're making the decision for them because their mind has been hijacked by whatever's, caused them to have this behavioral health issue. So this is about making the decision for them and making the decision for them because they cannot make it. Their mind's been hijacked. And so expecting them to either go to treatment and stay is just something that is not realistic. Unfortunately, it's part of the disease. It's part of the problem. So these things can typically happen very quickly. 2 steps to Marchman Act: assessment and treatment. Normally I can get somebody picked up for an assessment on an emergency basis. They'll get picked up by the police, and if my investigator's there too, if we need them to be there. But that typically is a same-day process. Again, depending on the county, but sometimes just within a couple of hours. And we can get them to a place of safety where we can at least keep them for an initial period of 72 hours, which under certain circumstances can be extended. But at some point, usually within 10 days, sometimes closer to a week, we're going to have a hearing in front of the judge, and we're going to ask the judge to send this person to treatment for a period of up to 90 days. And if they don't go, then I guess we're going to have a very different conversation with the judge about the potential consequences for ignoring the court order, because compliance with the court order is not optional, right? It is mandatory. Remember, we're making the decision for them. We're going to make sure they stay in a clinically appropriate facility for long enough, okay? So not only is there accountability for this person, your loved one, the patient, but there's a safety net for you. There's somebody we can go back to, the judge, the court, and say, Your Honor, they're not doing what they need to be doing. We need to have a conversation. Now, sometimes there may be a relapse. Sometimes a relapse is part of the recovery journey. Okay, Your Honor, we have a problem here. There's a relapse. I'm not looking for you to punish them, but we are looking for the facility to have the authority to move them to a higher level of care, or maybe a different facility that can deal with, whatever issue has now come up. So the Marchman Act not only gives us accountability and a safety net, it gives us some flexibility to be able to really adapt the right treatment for this person, but make sure they stay and stay long enough. So if you're a family out there and you're listening to this video, I'd like to talk to you. If you're a mom and dad like Hayden's parents who have been dealing with this for a long, long time, the Marchman Act may be an appropriate resource, an appropriate tool for you so you can finally end the chaos. With that said, obviously any more updates on Hayden's case, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, thank you. Thanks for listening to me, and take care. Be well. Bye-bye.